I am Mike.
And I'm Karen.
We are retired young. We are here in Merriam Creek Campground.
Just north of Coldfoot in the Arctic Circle.
The Arctic Circle. And it's 12:01, just after midnight. And it's still light out. So here's to the light of the midnight sun. About 70 miles north of Fairbanks, you come to a sign that says Dalton Highway. What, you're probably asking yourself, is the Dalton Highway? A little bit of background. It has to do with the Alaska Pipeline. The Alaska Pipeline was built to get the oil from the north shore of Alaska down to the warm water port of Valdez. They first needed to build this highway so they could build a pipeline alongside it. The pipeline has been operating now for almost 40 years and by most measures has done a really good job. The disaster with the ship, the Exxon Valdez, of course, tarnishes everybody's thought when they think about oil coming out of Alaska. Anyway, as you drive north along the Dalton Highway, you're almost always within sight of the Alaska Pipeline. One of the challenges they had in building the Alaska Pipeline was getting across the Yukon River. But on the day we were there, the bridge looked very peaceful.
Yeah, I'm Joe Greg's brother. Oh,
Starting to
We can camp down there.
get a little weird.
There's a restaurant right near the river that has not spent a lot of money on its outside decor. I'm going to try out the old Yukon River camp. Lunchtime. I think this is the entrance.
I was reading a story here about how a bear got in here and camped out over the winter.
$16.50 seems to be the going rate for a cheeseburger in all these remote areas, and at this point we're kind of used to it. We made it to the Arctic Circle. That's the old Jeep's running like a champ.
Arctic Circle.
Yeah. Top of the world. Coldfoot is a little town about halfway between Fairbanks and Prudhoe Bay. It is one of the only places to get fuel.
It must be the restaurant. The gas station right there.
In Coldfoot, there's the Arctic Interagency Visitor Center. This is where you have to go to register and if you want to go back in and do any backcountry exploring. There are no roads into the gates of the Arctic National Park. The only way to get there is to fly in or hike in. It's a good day hike just to get into the park, and because we're a little bit older, we decided, we just fly in. Flying Coyote Air.
This couple was getting off the plane when we first got there. We found out afterwards that this man has a brain tumor and he doesn't know how long he has to live. He and his wife spent the last 25 days mining for gold. Oh my!
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Wow. That is really, really neat.
Is it hard to clean them up?
Huh?
Is it hard to clean it
Yeah,
up?
it probably cleans up pretty easy.
It's hard to find them.
It's hard getting on the plane. A little jump over the mountains.
Yeah.
Land on a lake.
Now it's just us, Kim.
Yep. What do you think? This is a beautiful spot.
It is. The next day we decided to go for a hike. We've been told it was very difficult to walk in the tundra, and we had to see for ourselves why it was so hard.
Every time you step, you drop in 3 inches, like walking in a big carpet.
The spongy ground was tough, but the real tough part were tussocks.
What do you think of this walking, Karen?
I don't like this. It's too unsteady.
We made it to the river.
It was 0.8 miles from the lake where we were staying to the river, but it was a tough 0.8 miles. We've been told that floating down a river is a great way to explore the park. After walking that 0.8 miles, I can kind of see why.
This is what it looks like inside the tent. Inside gates of the Arctic National Park. When it's raining out. It's getting a little old. It was okay, it was a good excuse for a nap, but now you gotta get outside and do something.
Like I said, you can go, I'm not going.
Last night I caught 2 fish with that other lure in like 2 minutes. And so there's so many fish that I'm going to do something. I'm going to take the barbs off of this thing, or at least take these little things so that it makes it easier to catch the fish and let them go again.
I feel like we're in Minnesota. There's a loon out there.
Came out to greet us.
Yesterday when we arrived, he was singing to us.
Yeah. Keeping warm.
Barely. I'm about ready to go to bed.
It's still light out. We'll go to bed when it's dark.
Oh, but...
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Karen.
We are
Retired young.
cold and tired young. It's Friday morning. We gotta pick up our tent and get ready to get back on the plane. We're only out here 2 nights, but it feels like we got a good sense of it.
So here's some things we learned about Gates of the Arctic National Park. The first thing we learned was about backcountry wilderness camping.
And this is the bear spray. It's got a little safety thing on there. Pull that off and you push that, but you're only supposed to use that when the bear gets within 10 feet. This is a bear bay or a bear bin. So you put your food in there and then you put this lid back on. Here's our handy dandy stove, which we just love. Stinking boil a thing of water in like 5 minutes. It boils 6 cups of water. And this is the scat hole digger. Supposed to dig a hole in the ground and then take a poop in there. And then the worst part about the whole thing is you're supposed to take your toilet paper back out with you. Pack it out. Don't put the toilet paper down there. Now you kind of know everything that I know. I had heard that the park rangers themselves are required by regulation to bring a gun in when they go into the backcountry. So I thought there must be a good reason for it, and I brought my old 870. In hindsight, I think it's kind of a waste of time to bring the gun in. I mean, you got to go through a lot of paperwork getting it through Canada, and I mean, if you're on a hunting trip, of course, that'd be different, but if you're just out exploring the backcountry, I think a gun is a big hassle.
The second thing we learned was how delicate and fragile the tundra really is.
Yeah, we're here at the unusual time. Most of the time it's winter, heavy duty winter. It is up north. I mean, it's the only national park that's entirely in the Arctic Circle. And in the visitor center, they have an exhibit where they show the rings on a tree. The rings are really close together because each one of the growing seasons is so short, they just can't grow very much in any given year.
So any damage to the tundra can take years to recover. We also learned that wildlife is relatively scarce in this area.
It's just such a tough environment, it doesn't support a lot of wildlife. But the fishing is good.
The third thing we learned is really a difficult park to enjoy.
They say that Gates of the Arctic National Park is consistently rated in the bottom 10 of all national parks. The guy who told us that was the the ranger at the visitor center, and this guy was kind of crazy. He said, well, you know, back home I was a ranger at Zion, and I could walk, you know, 20, 30 miles in a day. It wasn't a problem. And out here, 6 miles is a lot.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, he probably exaggerates a little bit, but it is that kind of a place.
A lot of national parks accommodate people in an RV or people that just want to take a day trip into the park. About the only kind of visitor that can make the best use of this park are those that enjoy the backcountry wilderness camping. As a matter of fact, we didn't even bring our motorhome up north. We left it in Fairbanks. We didn't see a lot of RVs on the Dalton Highway. Saw a lot of trucks, some motorcycles, and then just some other people like us.
What else is there? It's not my cup of tea. It's not, I would prefer to be in a established campground with established trails.
Happiness is seeing a plane coming in. It's our guy. He came back for us.
How are you guys doing?
Great.
Stopped for supper here. I got a lot of abuse. She's really funny. She gave us a hard time because we split a burger and split a milkshake, and
Passing a big honking truck.
that's what happens. You pass those big trucks. You gotta slow down because otherwise you get rocked through the windshields. This will be the end of our journey. Hope you've just got bugs and don't have rocks in your windshield.